This lesson is about throws and takedowns, and the first thing you need to consider is safety. So don't try and train throws and takedowns before you took the lessons about falling and rolling. This is extremely important because takedowns and throws is all about falling and hitting the floor. So this is safety first. Let's start talking about throws. When we throw someone, we actually move our center of mass beneath their center of mass. And we want to move our center of mass beneath the opponent's center of mass in a way that will cause their legs, both legs, go up in the air. And then it becomes a throw. So we can do it by moving our center of mass beneath the opponent's, or moving the opponent's center of mass above ours. I will show you some examples. Here, our center of mass as a human is around this area, around the waist area. So the most basic throw there is I want to wear his suit. If we stand like this, I want to wear his suit, see? But I take my center of mass beneath his center of mass, and then I can lift him on me. After I lift him, and I can take him up and throw him down, because I take his both legs up in the air. So this is the most simple throw there is. Just start in this way. There are a lot of ways to perform this throw. The basic is this. I'm here, I grab his shoulder and just lift him. See, my legs are straight now, and all the power comes from the leg. Now I'm doing it very gently so you can see, and to not break fear, I need him for this entire session. Second type of throw is hip throw. Hip throw is very similar, but the issue is, the concept is that I'm grabbing his hip. Here I grabbed his shoulder, this time I will grab his hip. And this time I don't have to be entirely beneath him, I can be half body beneath him. And I still move my center of mass beneath his, and I lift him and finish the throw. I will do it again. See, I lift his arm, get beneath his center of mass, my arm is around him on his hip, and this is why it's called hip throw. It has a lot of names, some of the names are in Japanese, it doesn't matter. The third is very similar, but we will use his neck. And this is very dangerous. Don't do it with someone who can't fall, because I will put my entire weight on his neck. It's usually done fast, otherwise it will be more like a takedown than a throw. So it looks like this. It must be fast. If I do it slow, then it's here with his neck, but then it's not a throw but a takedown. We'll talk about it on the takedown section. So these were examples for throws where I take his center of mass above my center of mass. Now I will take my center of mass underneath him. I will go here and I just use my body as a weight, and then I just hang myself on him. So here I grab his neck to keep him safe. Usually this is done with sort of suit, with gi, but I can do it also like this. So I just fall beneath him and my entire body mass is beneath him and he throws. When it's done really fast, it's not safe for the neck, so I won't do it fast. Don't do it fast. I'm falling beneath him, but this time I will do it very controlled, and I'm in this position. I generate round movement, and then I can throw him. I'm doing this, see? Round movement, and then I can just fall beneath him. And I'm using my leg with round movement, so I take my center of mass beneath his. When it's done fast, you just throw yourself there. Same idea is the next one. Can be done in many ways. I hit him with my knee, and now I just fell down. So the examples are numerous. The main principles of throws are: you take both legs of the opponent up from the ground. Second, you want to put your center of mass beneath the opponent's center of mass. You can do it by going underneath him and then throw his center of mass around you. You can do it by, I will take it to the extreme and just go underneath him. So I keep his neck and head together. It better be done with some sort of gi, and I just slide underneath him. See, I just change the places of our center of mass. So this is the main about throws. And yes, it's important, you must know how to fall. Of course, another kind of throws are all the suplex kind of throws, where I just take him and toss him. I can do it from the front, I can do it from the backward, you know where it goes, but they are very hard to be done, and they are more, you can see them more in wrestling and pro wrestling. Like in a more shorter version, I will just grab him and toss him aside, and not making the complete suplex with the bridge and everything. Another very useful type of throw is when I go underneath him. We are here, and I just go underneath him. I'm making this round movement, and I just throw him. This is also very useful, and again, as you've seen, I put my center of mass underneath his and moved under him. Now let's talk about takedowns. And takedowns are different than throws, because in throws we want to move our center of mass beneath the center of mass of the opponent and like switch the places. With takedowns, what we want to do is create torque. We want to create a pivot point somewhere on our opponent's body, and we want to apply opposite forces around this pivot point, because opposite forces create torque, and we want to create rotational movement for takedowns. We can't take down if we just push forward. We need to create some sort of rotation. And before we start with the pivot point, there are two things you must have to be able to take down somebody. The first, you must have diversion and surprise. If somebody is ready for being taken down, it will be extremely hard taking him down. He will just move. He knows I'm going to take him down, and he doesn't let me. The second thing you need to do is you have to use Kuzushi. I can't take him down when he is stable. He is stable, I can't. I must take him out of balance before I can take him down. Because if he's not out of balance, if I just try to do this, he will just rebalance himself very, very quickly. So you must have Kuzushi and create diversion to use surprise in order to take somebody down. It's not throw where you uplift him from the ground. This is different. Let's go back to the pivot point thing. We want to make a pivot point. See, right now I'm using his shin, his center of the shin, as a pivot point around which I will take him down. So before the takedown, his center of mass is on one side of the pivot point. The pivot actually makes me a place of which around I will move his center of mass. I don't have to do this, because then he keeps his center of mass back. I will just push his back, see, in direct line, and this leg actually apply force backward. So backward and forward forces together. And then I can just outbalance him. Takedowns start with outbalancing. Of course, if I push into the ground, he will fall into the ground. So the point is that I want to make his center of mass go around the pivot point, not staying on the original side of the pivot point. This is a takedown. We can do it in many ways. I can do this. See? Center of mass, pivot point. I will push, and now his center of mass going in a spiral around the pivot point. I used his neck as source for spiral movements, for rotational force, and for outbalancing, for Kuzushi. But eventually, taking down is creating pivot point. You know the double leg takedown. When I do this double leg takedown, I actually create here pivot point, and I take his center of mass and I just push it. This is not a throw. This is takedown. I didn't uplift him. I just push his center of mass around this pivot point that I created with my hands. Of course, I can do this and take him up like this, and then it will become a throw. So the double leg takedown is in between, because if it's aggressive enough, I am uplifting him. It's like this. So it's in between. He can kick me, round kick, and I can grab it. Okay, it doesn't matter. I can grab it from above, from below. Let's say I'm doing this now. See, I have pivot, and I apply force, and I move his center of. See, I control it. Now, if I take his center of mass down around this pivot, this is the pivot point. This is the pivot. I just change the relative position of his center of mass around this pivot point. I know it sounds complicated physics, but it's not. It's basic idea. If I do it with the front leg, right? 1 and 2. Again, I put my leg as a pivot point in his knee. If I use joint locks, see? This is the way to apply force, but his pivot point is around the shoulder. Now he still stands because his shoulder is in the same relative position to his center of mass, but now I moved his center of mass around the pivot point. If you don't understand why around the pivot point, check where his shoulder is, and you see, center of mass was here, center of mass there. Pivot point is at my direction. Same goes with the neck, up and down, see? Force applied here, center of mass on the center, right? Now I take his center of mass around the pivot point, and then he falls. So we can create this pivot point also by moving relatively to our opponent. So it's not only me tossing him here using force, no, it's me moving toward him and change the relative position. I don't have to bring him to the ground for making a takedown. I can make it a complete takedown on the ground, or I can just outbalance him for a short period, enough for me to do something else. One of the more classical takedowns there is, called in Japanese sotogeri, he needs to resist what I'm doing, otherwise he will just move with me. So when he resists, I can use this tension to make kozushi, because I make some round movement. See? This. He wants to fix it, otherwise he will fall. And I don't want him to, so I just bypass and move. Now, just for the fun of things, I can do something different. Instead of making low pivot point, I can take my leg and just push it deep into him and make a high pivot point. And if I don't want to lose grip over him, I can do this, and instead of making him fall, I can just bypass him and control him. So there are a lot of ways to take somebody down. The important is to create this kozushi, the outbalancing, to use diversion so it will be surprised, otherwise he will rebalance himself. And I want to create a pivot point and create torque using opposite direction force applied on both sides of the pivot point. And then I can take him down all the way or half of the way.